Alright guys, so there's a finished product. When I left off I had the surround glued and clamped, and I told you I'd wait a couple hours and pull it off. And that's what I did. I pulled the clamps off after it's set for several hours. And then went ahead and pulled the shims out and then pushed down on the cone and lifted up on it, no rubbing or anything. So at that point what I did is I pulled the lead bars tight and left about an inch and clipped all the excess off, and then just stripped it back, wrapped the coil wire, the conductor wires from the coil around it, and soldered them, then pushed them back through enough to give a little bit of slack so that they wouldn't stretch, and just glued them to the inside of the cone. And once I did that, I just put like somewhere between 100 150 watts to it, just for like a couple of minutes. Make sure it played, no rubbing, no issues. And at that point I sanded the back of the dust cap around the edge, and then put a thin bead of E6000 down, and then put the dust cap on, spun it a little back and forth to kind of disperse it a bit, and then just set some weight on it for about 45 minutes, maybe an hour. I don't know. We were eating supper and stuff. So anyways, that's the finished product. To go back over a little bit, what I did was, before I tore this thing apart, I noticed it had a little bit of spider sag, and he got this secondhand. And with the issues this thing had, like the spider sag, he didn't have it very long, and then it just, like the coil was bad. But right before the coil was bad, the cone started separating, which he epoxied back in place. And that had me worried. That's why I wanted to test it a little bit. But anyways, whoever he got it from, again, they probably just abused it quite a bit. And so hopefully he'll be happy with it. So one of the things that I did was, this had a soft single layer spider in it. And it had, it was very fatigued. So what I decided to do was use the exact same spider, but in a dual layer. It's a single spider, but it's a dual layer. And the reason for that is kind of increase the power handling just a tad. It's not like a huge drastic amount, but it increases the power handling a little, a tad. And then with the coil, it's the same wind height, same inner and outer diameter as the stock coil, but it's on a black aluminum former. And, it's round copper 4-layer coil, but it uses the black high temp adhesive. So the coil itself is just more thermally sound than the stock coil. For one, it's going to dissipate heat a lot better because it's not Kapton, it's aluminum former. Kapton will hold in heat as opposed to aluminum. Sometimes, up to 100 degrees difference. With like different studies that were done, you guys can go back and read on stuff. You don't have to take my word for it. But, you can see anywhere from 60 to 100 degrees or so difference with using the aluminum versus Kapton. I want to say that it was Rockford Fosgate and a couple others back years ago um, provided all the hard data on that. So all in all, the thermal power handling and the mechanical power handling itself was increased slightly on it. It's quite stiff now, probably a little stiffer than when it's new, when you took it brand new out of the box. But once it's played, with moderate power for a week and a half or so, it should loosen up, quite a bit. Yeah, as far as sound, it's not really going to affect the actual sound quality or anything of the driver. Not anything drastically that the human ear is going to hear. So all in all, it should be, should be able to perform better than it did when it was stock. And I hope that he'll be happy with it. Again, I appreciate it, Anthony. Thank you. So hopefully I can get this out to him tomorrow, and if not, maybe Sunday, or I don't know. We'll see how the schedule stuff works out. But anyways, I just want to show you the finished product. I got the gasket and everything back on. I just need to clean it up. And again, there was some stuff on the surround. I think I can get the rest of it off for him, and then just clean it up a little bit. So I am going to go over, like I told you, about voice coils. You guys have been asking me questions for a little bit now about it. And I figured maybe in the next video or so, just do a deep dive on voice coils, give you a better understanding. And also, to to clear up some of the shit you guys have been told. That's been asking me questions. People take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then they just a lot of times they don't really understand what you're talking about. And they might know a little bit, but then just take it, too far. So again, we're going to go over all of that in an upcoming video. I'll see you guys next time.